You stand today not as someone trying to win, but as someone awakening to a victory that has already been written into your being. The triumph you seek is not ahead of you, it is within you, complete, finished, sealed. Your work now is not to earn it, fight for it, or chase it. Your work is to realize it, to feel it, to embody it, until the outer world has no choice but to bow to the truth you carry. Everything you desire already exists in its completed form. The version of you who has the breakthrough, the healing, the abundance, the love, the success, that version is not a dream. It is already alive in your imagination, waiting for your acceptance. The moment you feel yourself to be victorious, the moment you claim the state of fulfillment, creation is complete. The world simply moves to catch up with what you have already claimed internally. Every outer event in your life is a mirror reflecting the state you occupy within. If the mirror shows lack or limitation, do not argue with the reflection. Change the inner state, and the reflection must change. Set your attention on the version of you who already possesses the victory. Live from that state. Think from that state. Move, breathe, and feel from that state, and watch the world reshape itself. When circumstances appear to contradict your desire, understand that they are merely the fading echoes of an old assumption. They are not prophecy, they are residue. Every old condition must dissolve as you persist in your new identity. Do not be discouraged by delay. Delay is simply the period in which the unseen becomes arranged, aligned, and prepared for its emergence into the visible world. Your imagination is the birthplace of every future event. Your feelings are the substance that gives it life. When you assume the victory, when you claim yourself as the one who has already received, you activate the invisible currents that shape destiny. Life begins to move in ways you cannot predict. Opportunities appear. Doors open, people shift, paths clear. Because reality must honor the state you occupy. Do not question how it will happen. Do not analyze the mechanics. The how belongs to the unseen intelligence that governs all creation. Your only responsibility is to dwell in the end, to feel the victory as though it is already yours. When you accept the fulfillment emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, the bridge of events begins to form beneath your feet. You will be guided effortlessly from where you stand to where you have already arrived, inwardly. This is the great secret. Victory is not created, it is recognized. You awaken to it, you align with it, you embody it. And then it breaks into visibility as naturally as sunrise breaks the darkness. So today, step into the knowing that you already have the victory. It is not becoming yours, you are becoming aware of it. The transformation is not in the world, it is in you. And as you shift, the world must shift with you. Hold your head high. Walk as the one who already possesses the blessing. Speak as the one whose prayer is already answered. Feel as the one whose manifestation is guaranteed. Because the truth is simple, profound, and unstoppable. You already have the victory. And now it's becoming reality. Victory begins in the invisible chambers of your inner world, long before it takes shape in the physical. Everything you will ever achieve, experience, or encounter must first be conceived and accepted within your imagination. This is the great secret behind all creation. Nothing enters your life unless you have first allowed it entry in the unseen realm. Your imagination is not a place of fantasy. It is the workshop where your future is forged. When you accept a state inwardly, when you feel it, embody it, and identify with it, you give life to the blueprint from which your reality must build itself. You do not manifest what you want, you manifest who you are within. This is why inner victory is the true starting point. If you attempt to change your outer life while remaining defeated internally, nothing shifts. You will continue to attract circumstances that reflect the state you occupy. But the moment you dare to accept victory within your imagination, even when evidence seems absent, you set in motion a process that is far more powerful than effort, struggle, or willpower. Imagination is the womb of miracles, and acceptance is the spark that brings them into form. The world you see around you is a projection of the world you carry within. Every accomplishment, every breakthrough, every blessing first appeared as a thought, a feeling, a knowing. When you claim victory within yourself, when you confidently assume that the result you desire is already yours, the outer world begins to shift. People you have never met, circumstances you could never predict, and events you could not orchestrate start aligning themselves to match the state you have accepted. This is not magic, it is law. The inner state always determines the outer expression. Notice how life responds when you shift your inner focus. When you mentally step into the identity of someone who has succeeded, your actions naturally follow. You speak differently, make different choices, walk with greater assurance, and treat yourself with higher respect. This inner alignment produces outer opportunities, and those opportunities become visible proof of the state you have internalized. Victory is not something you fight to achieve. It is something you allow yourself to receive by first accepting it as your internal truth. Many people wait for evidence before they believe, but the evidence only appears after belief is established. To insist on seeing results before accepting them is like demanding a reflection appear in the mirror before standing in front of it. The outer world is your mirror, and imagination is your position before it. When you accept victory inwardly, when you feel the joy, relief, confidence, and gratitude of already having what you desire, your reflection must eventually show the same. There is no power outside of you that can override the state you continually accept within yourself. When you make your imagination your sanctuary and choose to dwell in the end result with unwavering faith, you activate the creative power that shapes all things. Victory exists first within. Once accepted, the world reorganizes itself. Situations rearrange themselves and pathways open until the invisible becomes visible. Your internal acceptance is the birthplace of every external triumph. Your inner knowing is the silent architect behind every outcome you experience. Long before anything becomes visible, it takes shape in the realm of your assumptions, your beliefs, and the quiet certainty you hold within yourself. Life is not responding to your wishes, it is responding to the conviction you carry in the depths of your being. The moment you feel something as done, not hoped for, not desired, but done, you impress that state upon your subconscious, and creation is set into motion. This inner acceptance becomes the blueprint, the pattern, and the design that the outer world must eventually mirror. Feeling something as done is more than positive thinking or affirmations. It is a shift in identity. It is you stepping into the state of the person who already has what they desire. It is a change in how you see yourself, how you interpret circumstances, and how you respond to life. This inner shift becomes the signal that the universe reads. When your conviction becomes unwavering, events people, opportunities, and even seeming coincidences begin aligning themselves around your assumption. Life rearranges itself, not according to what is happening on the outside, but according to what you have claimed on the inside. There is a profound difference between hoping and knowing. Hope leaves room for doubt, knowing leaves no space for contradiction. When you know something inwardly, when you feel it as certain and complete, that knowing generates a calm confidence that radiates through everything you do. You speak differently, your posture changes, your choices elevate, you stop chasing and begin attracting. You stop questioning and start trusting. This internal alignment becomes the magnet that draws the outer world into harmony with your inner reality. Every manifestation begins with this internal certainty. When you claim the end result emotionally and spiritually, you start to see signs that confirm it. Not because the signs cause the manifestation, but because your state of knowing allows you to recognize the unfolding that was already set in motion the moment you accepted the fulfillment within. The world can only present conditions that are in harmony with the blueprint you carry. If your inner knowing is one of lack or limitation, the world will reflect that. But if your knowing is rooted in abundance, success, love, or healing, then your life must outpicture those qualities. There is no power in effort if inner conviction is absent. But the smallest action taken from a state of knowing becomes powerful and aligned. Life rushes to support the version of you that you have claimed yourself to be. Doors open effortlessly. The right people appear. Obstacles dissolve. Paths clear. This is not luck. It is the effect of holding a steady, unwavering inner blueprint. Your inner conviction is not influenced by circumstances. Circumstances are influenced by your conviction. When you feel it as done, when you embody the certainty of your desired outcome, you activate the laws of creation that govern all things. Life begins, rearranging itself with precision, intelligence, and perfection to honor the inner blueprint you have accepted. The outer world is simply responding to the truth you have claimed within. Circumstances are nothing more than shadows cast by the inner state you inhabit. They may appear solid, intimidating, or immovable, but in truth they have no independent power. They are reflections, echoes of the assumptions, beliefs, and feelings you consistently hold within yourself. What you see around you at any moment is not a prophecy of your future, nor is it the truth of your destiny. It is simply the result of the state you have been dwelling in. And just as a shadow cannot resist the light that transforms it, circumstances cannot withstand a shift in your inner consciousness. The great mistake many people make is believing that circumstances are the cause of their emotional state. They look at their finances, their relationships, their health, or their current setbacks and assume these conditions dictate what is possible for them. But outer conditions do not dictate your destiny. They reveal the state you have been living from. If you change that inner state, the outer world must eventually change with it. It has no choice. It is bound to follow the inner pattern, just as a mirror must reflect the face standing before it. When you recognize that circumstances are shadows, you stop fighting them. You stop reacting to them with fear, anxiety, or frustration. Instead, you look within and ask, what state am I occupying that is being reflected back to me? This question reclaims your power. It shifts your attention away from the illusion of limitation and returns it to the source of all change, your inner world. If you dwell in lack, you see lack. If you dwell in fear, you encounter fear. But when you dwell in abundance, confidence, love, or victory, the world reorganizes itself to mirror those qualities. Shadows cannot stop you because they are not the truth. They are temporary expressions of old assumptions that are dissolving the moment you choose a new state. Even when circumstances appear stubborn or overwhelming, they are simply the final remnants of a previous inner pattern. They are not evidence of failure. They are evidence that you are transitioning from one state to another. They are the fading ripples of an old belief system losing its power. Your destiny is not written by the conditions around you. It is written by the identity you choose to claim. The inner state you dwell in is the author of your future. When you embody the feeling of success, even when outer conditions contradict it, you are planting the seeds of a new reality. And just as seeds take time to break through the soil, your new state may take time to appear outwardly, but it will appear. Persistence in your chosen state guarantees it. Do not allow circumstances to convince you that you are limited. They are not barriers, they are mirrors. They only show you who you have been, not who you are becoming. When you shift your inner dwelling place, when you assume the identity of the person who already has the blessing, the shadows must realign, they must reshape, they must obey. The outer world cannot resist the power of a transformed inner state. Your destiny lies not in circumstances, but in the state you choose to inhabit right now. To assume the end is to step into the state of the wish fulfilled with such conviction, clarity, and emotional certainty that the outcome becomes real to you long before it becomes visible to anyone else. It means you deliberately occupy the feeling of already having what you desire, regardless of what your senses report. This is not imagination as a distraction, it is imagination as creation. When you assume the end, you shift your identity, your focus, and your emotional frequency to match the reality you seek. And once that inner shift occurs, the outer world must eventually conform. The unseen becomes seen through persistence. A single moment of imagining may inspire you, but it is sustained inner alignment that brings your desire into form. Every time you return to the feeling of fulfillment, every time you dwell in the state of having rather than wanting, you impress this assumption deeper into your subconscious mind. It becomes the dominant pattern, the inner blueprint from which reality is shaped. This repeated acceptance gives substance to the invisible, until what was once merely imagined begins to crystallize in the physical world. Crystallization is the natural consequence of inner certainty. Just as water vapor becomes rain when enough pressure builds, your inner feeling solidifies into physical experience when your conviction becomes stronger than your doubt. The unseen is not intangible, it simply awaits your persistence. Your thoughts, emotions, and assumptions gather power every time you revisit them. With consistent alignment, they condense into events, opportunities, and encounters that reflect the state you have claimed. Persistence is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is not effort, struggle, or force. It is simply the willingness to return again and again to the end result, to keep your mental attention anchored in the fulfillment rather than the lack. You persist by feeling the joy, peace, gratitude, or confidence of already having what you desire. These emotions are creative forces. They prepare your inner world to receive, and in doing so, instruct the outer world on what to deliver. Obstacles may arise, but they are not signs of failure. They are signs of restructuring. Old assumptions surface because they are being replaced. Circumstances may seem to resist your desire because they are remnants of past states dissolving. This is why persistence is essential, not to overpower the world, but to outlast the illusions that once governed it. When you remain loyal to the end, everything that contradicts it must eventually fall away. The moment you assume the end, creation is finished. What follows is the unfolding, the gradual crystallization of your inner acceptance into tangible experiences. Just as a seed germinates in darkness before breaking through the soil, your manifestation takes shape in the unseen before it becomes visible. Trust this process. Continue to dwell in the state of fulfillment. Treat your desire as already accomplished and let your feelings testify to its reality. As you persist, the invisible will inevitably harden into the visible. What you have claimed within will step forward into your world, precise and undeniable. The unseen is always waiting to crystallize. It only asks for your unwavering assumption of the end. Delay is one of the most misunderstood parts of the manifestation process. Many people interpret delay as denial, as if the absence of immediate results means the desire is not coming or was never meant for them. But delay is not a dismissal of your blessing. It is the period of formation, the sacred interval in which the invisible aligns itself with your inner state. The victory is already yours in consciousness the moment you accept it. What you call waiting is simply life arranging the perfect conditions for its appearance. Creation is complete the instant you assume the state of the wish fulfilled. But the outer world operates in time. Time is not an obstacle. It is the servant that ensures the invisible becomes visible in an orderly, precise, and harmonious way. If everything you imagine materialized instantly, your life would collapse into chaos. Time provides structure. It allows events to unfold in their proper sequence, relationships to form, opportunities to mature, and environments to prepare for what you have accepted internally. The delay you experience is not a block. It is the unfolding of a bridge of incidents that leads you from where you are to where you have already arrived inwardly. Think of delay as gestation. Just as a seed planted in the soil does not sprout the moment it is buried, your desires need time to germinate beneath the surface of your awareness. You cannot dig up the seed every day to check if it is growing, and you cannot doubt its ability to produce a harvest simply because the ground looks unchanged. The seed is working, forming, strengthening, preparing. So too is your desire taking shape in the unseen. The conditions you need are aligning. The right people are being positioned. The right circumstances are being constructed. What seems like stillness is actually movement at a level you cannot yet see. When you understand that delay is formation, your anxiety dissolves. You stop questioning whether the manifestation is coming. You stop looking for signs with desperation. Instead, you rest in the knowing that it is done, and that time is simply orchestrating its appearance. This inner calm accelerates the process because doubt no longer interrupts the formation. Fear no longer destabilizes the state you have accepted. You remain aligned, steady, and faithful, allowing the unseen to unfold without interference. The moment you assume your victory, it becomes a spiritual fact. Time then obeys that fact. It begins reshaping the world around you so that the invisible truth can step into visibility. There is no randomness in this process. The delay is purposeful. It is intelligent. It ensures that what belongs to you arrives in a way that sustains you, supports you, and elevates you. Nothing meant for you is ever denied. It simply arrives at the moment when the path is clear and the conditions are ready. When you trust that delay is formation, not denial, you become unshakable. You walk as someone who already has the blessing. You speak from fulfillment, not from longing. You live in gratitude, not in doubt. And in that state of inner certainty, time delivers what you have already claimed within. The victory is yours. Time is only doing its appointed work of carrying it into form. Your faith is the silent authority that shapes your world. It is not loud, forceful, or dramatic, yet it carries more creative power than any amount of physical effort. The outer world does not respond to your struggle, your worry, or your attempts to force outcomes into place. It responds to the quiet, unshakable conviction you hold within yourself. When you decide inwardly that something is yours, when you feel it with certainty and align your identity with it, you grant creation the only permission it needs to bring that desire into form. Faith is not hoping, wishing, or begging. Faith is knowing. It is the inner stance that says, "This is already mine," even when outer conditions seem to contradict it. It is the confidence that allows you to move through life without anxiously searching for evidence, because the evidence is already established within your imagination. Faith replaces effort because it operates at the level where all things are created. To struggle attempts to manipulate the shadows. Faith transforms the source. When you hold a state of inner certainty, your actions, your energy, and your decisions naturally align with that state. You begin to take inspired steps instead of desperate ones. You move with clarity rather than confusion. You attract solutions instead of chasing them. This alignment opens paths that were previously hidden and dissolves barriers that once seemed immovable. The world is always responding to who you believe yourself to be, not who you are trying to be externally, but who you are convinced you are internally. Most people exhaust themselves trying to change the world from the outside in. They work harder, push harder, and worry more, thinking that struggle will produce results. But struggle is a sign of inner doubt. It is effort born from disbelief. And because the outer world mirrors your inner state, struggle tends to produce more struggle. Faith, on the other hand, is effortless because it comes from assurance. When you know something is already yours, you relax, you release tension, you stop forcing, you allow life to move through you with flow rather than friction. Faith is permission because it signals to the deeper creative power within you that you are ready to receive. It is the inner agreement that opens the channel between the unseen and the seen. Once you accept something emotionally and spiritually, the physical world must reorganize itself to reflect that acceptance. This is not philosophy, it is law. The world cannot produce anything that contradicts your dominant inner conviction. Your certainty becomes the instruction. Your belief becomes the blueprint. Your faith becomes the command that shapes the unfolding of events. When you detach from fear and fully assume the state of the fulfilled desire, you no longer chase outcomes, you attract them. You no longer try to control life. You cooperate with the deeper intelligence that is always working in your favor. Nothing outside of you determines what is possible. No circumstance, no limitation, no setback, no delay has the power to override the authority of your faith. The world is simply a mirror reflecting your inner state. When your inner certainty becomes unshakable, the world is compelled to rearrange itself to match it. Your faith is the only permission needed. The moment you believe, creation begins. In the end, everything you seek begins within you. Victory is not something you chase, it is something you awaken to. The moment you claim your desire internally, the moment you step into the feeling of the end, creation is set in motion. Circumstances shift, paths open, time aligns, and life moves with precision to reflect the state you have accepted. What was once invisible begins to crystallize. What felt distant becomes inevitable. Your imagination becomes the birthplace of every breakthrough, and your faith becomes the force that brings it into visibility. So walk with the quiet confidence of someone who already possesses the blessing. Live from the truth that the victory is already yours. Let your inner knowing guide you, let your persistence anchor you, and let your faith elevate you above every shadow of circumstance. When you dwell in the end, life must honor your assumption. Thank you for listening, and thank you for stepping into the power of your own inner victory. There comes a moment in every person's life when the unseen begins to whisper, when the invisible starts to make itself known. This moment is sacred because it reveals a truth most people never discover. Your reality has already shifted long before your eyes recognize it. Everything is coming together for you, not in the future, not someday, now. But to see it, you must look where others never look, within the subtle signs of your own consciousness. You see, creation does not begin with action. It begins with acceptance. The acceptance of a state, the acceptance of a new identity, the acceptance of a reality that may look impossible at first glance. The moment you assume the feeling of your desire fulfilled, creation is finished. The world only rearranges itself to reflect what you already accepted as true, and the rearrangement has already begun. Maybe you've noticed it, the quiet shift in your emotions, the sudden sense of clarity, the strange feeling that life has tilted in your favor. These are not coincidences. These are proof. Perhaps someone reached out unexpectedly. Perhaps you encountered a message that felt like it was written only for you. Perhaps things that once resisted you now move smoothly, effortlessly. Perhaps you feel lighter without knowing why. This is not luck. This is not random. This is the world bending to the state you finally claimed. Everything is coming together for you, not because you fought for it, but because you aligned with it. When you changed your inner world, your outer world had no choice but to follow. Look at the little signs. The tone of your days is changing. A sense of expectancy is rising within you. You walk differently, breathe differently, speak differently, because you are no longer the person who hoped. You are the person who knows. You've entered the reality where what you want is already yours, and the world is catching up to the truth you accepted. Every coincidence, every synchronicity, every shift in mood, these are confirmations saying, keep going. You've done it. The result is on its way into visibility. The universe does not speak in loud announcements. It speaks in gentle alignments. It speaks in signs. It speaks in timing. It speaks in the subtle reordering of everything around you. So notice the proof. Notice how the world reacts differently to you. Notice the calm replacing your old worries. Notice the opportunities forming without effort. Notice how what once felt distant now feels familiar, as if you lived it before. That feeling is not imagination. That feeling is remembrance. You are remembering the future you already created. Everything is coming together. Everything is aligning. Everything you ask for is already stepping into form. Remain in the state. Stay faithful to what you have accepted as true. Persist in the knowing, not the hoping. And watch how rapidly your world transforms. Because the moment you look closely, you'll see it. The proof is everywhere, and it's all pointing to one truth. Everything is coming together for you now. Your inner state shapes the outer world. Everything begins as an unseen seed. Long before anything appears in your physical reality, it first exists in the quiet chambers of your imagination. Every outcome, every relationship, every opportunity you experience begins as a subtle shift within you, a movement of awareness, a decision to believe something new. People often assume that change starts with action, with effort, with struggle. But the truth is far more powerful. The outer world is only a reflection of your inner assumptions. Nothing happens on the surface that wasn't already accepted in the unseen depths of consciousness. Think of a seed planted in the soil. Before it breaks through the ground, before anyone can observe its growth, countless processes are already underway beneath the surface. The seed is expanding, strengthening, preparing, aligning itself with the reality of becoming a tree. In the same way, when you adopt a new belief, a new vision, a new sense of self, the roots of your manifestation begin to grow long before the world can notice. What you hold within you determines what unfolds around you. If you cultivate conviction, peace, and certainty, your outer world must mirror those states. If you nurture doubt, fear, or limitation, the world reflects those too. The soil does not decide what grows. The gardener does. Your mind is that gardener. Every desire starts as an invisible state you step into. When you imagine yourself as someone who already possesses the life you seek, the success, the love, the abundance, the freedom, you are planting a seed in the garden of consciousness. At first, it may seem as though nothing is happening. The world might look unchanged, circumstances might appear the same, and people may behave as they always have. But just like the seed beneath the soil, the shift has already begun. The unseen work is the most powerful work. Life starts reorganizing itself in ways you cannot yet perceive. Your inner conversations become the blueprint for outer events. The thoughts you consistently entertain, the emotions you allow yourself to feel, and the identity you silently embody all combine to form the reality you eventually walk into. You don't get what you want, you get who you are on the inside. When you change your inner state, you change the trajectory of your life. You can walk the same streets, talk to the same people, perform the same actions, and yet experience entirely different outcomes, simply because of the state you carry within you. This is why some people seem lucky, why opportunities flow to them effortlessly, why life bends to their favor. It is not luck, it is alignment. They have planted seeds of confidence, success, and expectancy, and the world reflects those seeds back as visible results. When you understand that every manifestation begins as an unseen form, you stop chasing outcomes and begin cultivating inner states. You learn to trust the invisible process. You learn to honor the seed before it becomes the tree. And when you do, life will unfold in ways that affirm the truth. Your inner world is the master key to everything you will ever experience. Evidence appears the moment you assume the feeling of fulfillment, not after. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about manifestation. Most people believe that they will feel certain, confident, or relieved only once the physical result shows up. They wait for something in the outer world to convince them that their desire is on its way. But this mindset reverses the true order of creation. The outer world is not the cause, it is the effect. The moment you assume the inner feeling of "it is done," evidence begins to appear. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because your perception shifts and your reality begins reorganizing itself to match your new inner state. When you enter the state of fulfillment, when you feel the wish already achieved, you ignite a chain reaction in consciousness. This feeling is not imaginary or pretend. It is the inner acceptance of a new truth. And the moment you accept that truth within, the world starts mirroring it without. People often misunderstand this stage because the evidence may be subtle at first. You may notice a shift in your mood, a sudden sense of clarity, or a wave of peace replacing old doubt. These emotional shifts are evidence. Your subconscious mind only relaxes when it receives a new dominant instruction, and the feeling of fulfillment is exactly that instruction. For what in focus of time is not, then come the synchronicities, the little signs that life is moving in your favor. Someone may mention something related to your desire. New opportunities may appear unexpectedly. Paths that were previously blocked start gently opening. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations that your inner shift has already impacted your outer world. But the key is this: these signs didn't appear because something changed out there. They appeared because you changed in here. This is why people who are confident in their desire often experience quick results. They are not waiting for evidence. Their conviction itself becomes the evidence. Once they decide internally, the world responds immediately. For others, the evidence seems delayed only because they keep looking outward for confirmation while carrying doubts inward. The moment they switch, the moment they allow themselves to feel the end is done, the delay collapses. Assuming fulfillment is not delusion, it is alignment with the truth that everything begins in consciousness. It is stepping into the version of yourself who already has what you desire. Once you inhabit that version, emotionally, mentally, and energetically, the world must reflect it. Your reactions change, your choices change, your energy changes. People respond differently to you because you show up differently to them. This too is evidence. Even before the physical manifestation arrives, the signs begin lining up because you are now aligned with your chosen outcome. Your external world starts to shift in ways that confirm your new inner identity. Life bends itself around the state you occupy. So the real question is never, when will I see evidence? The real question is, have I assumed the feeling of fulfillment? Because the moment you do, the evidence begins instantly, quietly, naturally, as the first ripple of a new reality unfolding itself into form. Small shifts, synchronicities, and intuitive nudges are the first signs of manifestation. They are the gentle whispers from the unseen world, letting you know that your inner work is already reshaping your outer reality. These subtle indicators often arrive long before the full physical result appears. And because they are quiet and easily overlooked, many people disregard them. But the truth is that manifestations rarely burst into existence all at once. They first show up as soft ripples, tiny movements in the fabric of your experience, confirming that something has changed within you. Once the truth came closer to you, the journey to the himself, a small shift might look like waking up with a lighter feeling in your chest, a sense that something good is coming, even if you can't explain why. It may be a sudden drop in anxiety, a new level of clarity, or a feeling of relief that appears without any external reason. This is not random. This happens because your inner state has reorganized itself. Your subconscious mind has accepted a new belief, and you can feel the emotional environment changing inside you. Before the world changes, you change. And that shift is the first proof that manifestation is already in motion. Then there are the synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that make you pause and wonder. You might overhear a conversation that directly relates to your desire. You might see repeating numbers, symbols, or phrases that match what you have been imagining. You might encounter people, messages, or opportunities that align perfectly with your intention. These events are not accidents. They are reflections of your new inner state expressing itself in the outer world. Synchronicities unfold when your consciousness is aligned with a specific outcome, and your reality begins arranging itself around that alignment. Intuitive nudges are another powerful indicator. These may come as spontaneous thoughts, sudden ideas, or inner urges to take certain actions. They may not always make logical sense, but they feel right. This intuitive pull is your deeper self guiding you toward the experiences that match your assumption. When you've stepped into the feeling of your desire fulfilled, you naturally start receiving guidance that leads you closer to its physical expression. This guidance does not come from fear or desperation. It comes from calm, inner knowing. All these subtle signs, the shifts, synchronicities, and nudges, are the earliest stages of manifestation taking shape. They show that your internal reality has already changed and your external reality is beginning to catch up. Many people dismiss these signs because they expect something dramatic. They crave immediate physical confirmation. But manifestation is a process that begins invisibly, just as a seed begins to sprout underground before anyone can see it. Your desire begins taking form in the unseen layers of consciousness before it becomes visible. When you learn to recognize these gentle signals, you develop faith in the process. You stop doubting. You stop waiting anxiously. You begin to trust that the universe is already working in your favor, and with that trust, the manifestation accelerates. What starts as a subtle nudge, a small coincidence, or a quiet shift soon expands into momentum. Eventually, the outer world reveals what your inner world accepted long ago. Your imagination is the true origin of every breakthrough you're experiencing. Long before anything changes around you, long before your circumstances shift, long before a new opportunity appears, it first must exist in the quiet, powerful realm of your inner world. Imagination is not a child's game or a fleeting daydream. It is the creative power that shapes every part of your life. Everything you now enjoy, everything you have achieved, everything you have overcome, all of it began as an image, a vision, a feeling, a possibility you first entertained within yourself. Most people underestimate imagination because it does not produce instant physical proof. Yet the invisible always precedes the visible. Every invention, every business, every work of art, every healing, every transformation, and every success story began in someone's mind long before it appeared in the world. What you imagine consistently with feeling and acceptance sets in motion the conditions that eventually bring it into reality. Imagination is not merely a reflection of life. It is the blueprint that life follows. When you allow yourself to imagine freely, vividly, and boldly, you create a future for yourself that is not limited by your past. You step outside the constraints of your current conditions and enter the realm of possibility. In imagination, you can embody the version of yourself that already has what you desire. You can live the scene, feel the emotions, and claim the identity long before it becomes physical. And the incredible truth is that once your imagination accepts this new state as real, your outer world must reorganize itself to match it. Breakthroughs happen when you stop looking at life as it is and begin to see it as it could be. When you dare to imagine something greater, you are activating the creative center of your being. Suddenly, new ideas emerge. Solutions you never saw before become obvious. Paths you once thought were blocked begin to open. People show up. Opportunities find you. Your intuition sharpens. Your energy shifts. All these changes begin with a single courageous act. Imagining a new version of yourself. You may believe that breakthroughs come from effort, struggle, or external change, but they come from inner permission. When you imagine yourself beyond your limitations, beyond your fears, beyond your past failures, you give life a new instruction. You rewrite your identity. You open the door for an entirely new reality. Your imagination plants the seed, your life simply mirrors it. Every meaningful shift you've ever experienced started because you first saw, felt, or believed something different internally. Maybe you imagined healing when you were sick. Maybe you imagined love when you were heartbroken. Maybe you imagined success when you had no evidence for it. Maybe you imagined freedom when you felt trapped. And slowly, quietly, faithfully, the world began to rearrange itself around that inner picture. That is the power of imagination. It is the womb of all creation. It is the silent architect behind every miracle, every advancement, every transformation you will ever know. When you honor your imagination, you are honoring the greatest creative force you possess, the force that makes every breakthrough possible. What you call coincidences are confirmations that the unseen is becoming seen. Most people brush off these meaningful moments as random accidents, but anyone who understands the deeper laws of consciousness knows that coincidence is simply the language of alignment. When your inner world shifts, when you adopt a new belief, a new assumption, a new sense of identity, your outer world begins to subtly rearrange itself in response. And this rearrangement often first appears as perfectly timed events, strange alignments, repeated messages, or encounters that feel too precise to be accidental. A coincidence is not just something unexpected. It is something meaningful. It carries a sense of recognition, as if the world is echoing your inner thoughts back to you. These echoes are confirmations that your imagination, your assumptions, and your emotional state are already influencing your external reality. Long before the full manifestation appears, the universe sends signs to let you know The process is underway. These signs are not meant to convince you. They are reflections of the conviction you already hold within. When you shift into the feeling of the wish fulfilled, your perception changes. You notice things you never noticed before. You become sensitive to patterns and symbolism that match your desire. You draw experiences to yourself that align with your new state of being. This is because your consciousness acts like a magnet, pulling into your awareness anything that resonates with the reality you have claimed. Coincidences arise from this resonance. They are not random. They are vibrational matches. If you have been imagining a new job, you may suddenly hear about opportunities through unexpected channels or meet someone who works in the exact industry you've been visualizing. If you've been imagining love, you may notice couples everywhere, songs about connection, or receive compliments that mirror the feeling of being cherished. If you've been imagining financial abundance, you might encounter conversations, articles, or people that speak directly to prosperity. These are not coincidences. They are evidence of alignment. What's truly remarkable is that these confirmations often appear just when doubt might try to creep in. It is as if the universe responds instantly to your wavering, offering reassurance through synchronicity. This is not because the universe is outside you, but because your subconscious mind is orchestrating your experience from within. It presents you with symbols and events that match the state you occupy. If you persist, these small coincidences grow into undeniable shifts, opening doors, creating opportunities, and eventually unfolding into the physical manifestation you initially imagined. The more you acknowledge these confirmations, the more they multiply. Awareness intensifies them. Gratitude amplifies them. Trust accelerates them. You begin to realize that you are not waiting for manifestation. You are already walking through its early stages. The unseen is always becoming seen, one sign at a time. Coincidence is simply the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the early evidence that your inner world is reshaping your outer world. Once you understand this, you stop dismissing coincidences and start celebrating them, because they are the proof that what you once imagined is now stepping into reality. Everything is aligning for you the moment you persist in your chosen reality. The instant you decide who you are, what you claim as yours, and what reality you choose to occupy, life begins to rearrange itself to match that decision. Many people believe alignment is something that happens after evidence appears, after circumstances shift, or after the physical world validates their desire. But alignment begins the moment you persist, not the moment you see results. Persistence is not effort. It is not forcing. It is not trying to convince yourself. Persistence means returning again and again to the inner state of your fulfilled desire. It means choosing repeatedly to identify with the version of yourself who already has what you want. Every time you return to that inner identity, you reinforce the reality you have chosen, and the more you reinforce it, the more the world must reflect it. When you persist, you are planting your flag in the invisible realm and declaring, "This is who I am now." And from that moment, the universe, or more accurately, your subconscious mind, begins to align circumstances, conversations, opportunities, and timing to bring your chosen reality into form. It may not always look dramatic at first. In fact, it often begins with the smallest internal changes: a shift in emotion, a growing sense of confidence, a new pattern of thought, or the quiet disappearance of an old fear. And these internal shifts are not insignificant. They are the earliest signs that alignment has begun. Your inner world always moves before your outer world does. When your emotional reactions change, your reality has already changed. When your internal dialogue softens and becomes supportive, you have already stepped into the new state. And once you are in that state, life starts to bend around you. Alignment may show up in subtle ways. People may treat you differently without knowing why. Opportunities you once struggled to reach may start moving toward you. Situations that felt stuck suddenly begin to flow. Obstacles dissolve. Delays turn into divine timing. This isn't luck, it's the natural consequence of inner persistence. The moment you decide that your chosen reality is true, everything begins to shift. The world around you is not static, it is fluid, flexible, and deeply responsive to your inner assumptions. The outer world cannot resist the inner reality you consistently occupy. It must conform to it. Persistence does not mean obsessing. It means gently returning to the feeling of your fulfilled desire whenever doubt tries to distract you. It means choosing your inner world over the temporary evidence of the outer world. It means refusing to be moved by appearances, knowing that appearances are only the shadows of past states. The more you persist, the faster alignment happens. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. What once felt distant becomes familiar. What once required effort begins to unfold naturally, effortlessly, as if life itself is supporting you. Everything is aligning for you the moment you persist, not because you forced the world to change, but because you changed, and the world is simply following your lead. In persistence, you become the creator, the author, and the director of your reality. And alignment becomes not a miracle, but a certainty. In the end, everything you seek already exists within you. The signs, the synchronicities, the inner shifts, the quiet proofs, they are all pointing to one truth. Your world is responding to your belief, your imagination, your chosen reality. You are not waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for you to recognize the power you already hold. The moment you choose your state, the moment you assume fulfillment, the moment you persist in what you know to be true, creation is complete. The rest is simply the world catching up. So notice the signs, trust the unseen, honor the inner work, and walk forward with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that everything is already coming together. Your manifestation is not approaching, it is unfolding. Your new reality is not distant, it is here, revealing itself piece by piece. Stay faithful to the end you have claimed, and watch how effortlessly life aligns to reflect it. Thank you for listening, and thank you for allowing these words to be a part of your journey. May your inner world continue to shape a reality that exceeds every expectation. There are moments in life when everything feels unsettled. Doors close, familiar paths vanish, and the ground beneath you begins to tremble. Do not mistake this shaking for destruction. It is preparation. When God is about to give you something big, He first clears away the small. The old self cannot inherit the new blessing. A greater life requires a greater identity. Just as the seed must break before the tree emerges, you too will feel something breaking within you. Relationships may shift, Desires may intensify, and old habits will no longer satisfy you. This is not loss, it is birth. You may feel pressure, as though life itself is squeezing you. Do not curse the pressure, for diamonds are made by nothing else. That tightening, that sense of being cornered, is simply the sign that you are being shaped into who you must be to hold the blessing that is on its way. And then come the signs, the whispers of alignment. Dreams so vivid they feel more real than waking life. Random encounters that speak directly to your heart. Repeated numbers, phrases, and patterns that call your attention. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. Heaven is hinting at what is already yours. There will be a moment, often quiet and without fanfare, when a sense of completion rises within you. You cannot explain it, but you feel it. It is done. Even before it shows up in your hands, it is sealed in your heart. That inner knowing is the first manifestation. The outer follows swiftly after. Yet, just before it arrives comes the test. The temptation to doubt, the urge to give up, the illusion that nothing is happening. This is the final gate. If you hold firm, if you persist in the unseen reality, then nothing can stop its arrival. So remember, when the world seems uncertain, when pressure surrounds you, when strange signs light up your path, take courage. God is not punishing you, He is preparing you. And the greater the blessing, the greater the shaking before it comes. Stand still, trust the process, and watch. For when God is about to give you something big, you will see this. When life begins to shake from within, many mistake it for something going wrong. They look at the confusion, the discomfort, the restless nights, and assume they have fallen off track. But the truth is the opposite. Inner shaking is not a sign of failure. It is a divine announcement that something greater is moving toward you. Just as the ground trembles before a seed bursts through the soil, your spirit trembles before a blessing breaks into your reality. The unrest you feel is not the end. It is the beginning of transformation. The human mind loves comfort, familiarity, and certainty, but growth never comes wrapped in what is familiar. To receive more, you must first be stretched beyond what you have known. That stretching can feel unsettling. It may appear as doubts, sudden changes in your relationships, or shifts in your desires. Things that once satisfied you no longer do. The conversations you once enjoyed now feel shallow. The places you used to belong no longer feel like home. This is the shaking. It is the loosening of the old identity, the peeling away of everything that cannot go with you into your new season. Think of a house under renovation. Before new walls can be painted, the old plaster must be stripped. Dust fills the air, the structure looks broken, and yet it is not destruction. It is preparation. In the same way, when God is about to give you something big, He allows the inner world to feel unsettled so that you can let go of what no longer serves you. The unrest is His way of making space for the new. Sometimes the shaking shows up as an inner resistance to routines you once followed blindly. You begin questioning your choices, your habits, even your relationships. This questioning is not weakness, it is awakening. It is the signal that you are no longer aligned with the smaller version of yourself. A greater vision is pulling you, and it will not allow you to remain in the comfort of the past. Even your emotions may fluctuate. One moment you feel inspired, the next you feel uncertain. Do not despise this rhythm. Just as a tide must pull back before it pushes forward with power, your spirit often retreats before it advances into its new blessing. That restlessness you feel is the stretching of your inner world to contain something far larger than what you have known. The inner shaking is holy. It is the invisible hand of God rearranging the furniture of your soul so that when the blessing arrives, you are ready to hold it. If you run from the shaking, you delay the blessing. But if you embrace it, if you sit quietly and trust the process, you will see that every unsettling thought and every restless feeling was simply a sign that expansion was near. What you are experiencing is not chaos, but the silent preparation for breakthrough. And when the dust settles, you will see the beauty that was always waiting to be revealed. The moment a greater life calls you forward, the version of yourself that lived in limitation cannot remain. The old self must die, not in sorrow or tragedy, but in a quiet surrender to transformation. To step into the new, you must release the patterns, the thoughts, and the identity that once kept you safe but now keeps you small. Every great change begins with a death, the death of who you were, so that the birth of who you truly are can take place. This death is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is subtle, almost unnoticeable. You wake up one morning and realize you no longer find joy in the things that once defined you. The desires you carried for years lose their weight. The roles you played no longer fit. It feels as though the very skin you live in has grown too tight. That discomfort is the whisper that your old self is dissolving, making way for the greater version within you. The old self thrives on repetition. It clings to familiar stories. This is who I am. This is how life works. This is what I deserve. But those stories were written by limitation, not by destiny. When God calls you into expansion, those narratives collapse. You begin to see that the life you accepted as unchangeable was only a reflection of what you once believed. As those beliefs crumble, so does the identity that was built upon them. The death of the old self is simply the falling away of illusions. This process can feel uncomfortable, even frightening. You may grieve what you're leaving behind, relationships, habits, environments that once gave you security. But remember, you are not losing anything real. You are shedding the costume that hid your true essence. The butterfly does not mourn the cocoon. It accepts that the shell was only temporary, necessary for a season, but not meant to contain the fullness of flight. At times, the old self resists. It whispers, "Stay where you are, do not change. It is too risky to grow." This is the voice of fear, the echo of a life built on survival rather than vision. Yet every great promise requires courage. To inherit the new identity, you must silence the voice of fear and choose trust. The crumbling of the old is not your destruction, it is your liberation. And then comes the breakthrough. As the old identity fades, a new one begins to emerge. You carry yourself differently, speak with more certainty, dream with more boldness. Life itself mirrors this shift back to you. New opportunities appear, new connections form. Doors once closed swing wide open. All of this is evidence that you have died to what was and awakened to what is. So do not fear the crumbling. Do not cling to what was never meant to last. The old self dies so that the true self can rise. This is the sacred exchange. Death to limitation, birth to freedom. And when you look back, you will see that nothing of value was lost. only illusions burned away, leaving you free to walk fully into the life already prepared for you. Pressure is one of life's greatest teachers. When everything feels delayed, when doors seem locked, when you push and nothing moves, it is easy to believe you are forgotten or that your desire will never come to pass. But what you call resistance is not denial, it is preparation. The pressure you feel before the breakthrough is the invisible hand shaping you into someone who can not only receive the blessing, but also sustain it. Think of the seed beneath the soil. To the eye, it appears buried, suffocated in darkness, pressed under layers of earth. Yet within that hidden place, the seed is breaking open. Its outer shell is cracking so that the life within can emerge. Without the pressure of the soil, without the weight that surrounds it, the seed could never grow roots strong enough to reach the surface. The very thing that seems to hold it back is the force that makes its growth possible. So it is with you. The delays, the obstacles, the resistance you face are not walls, they are wounds. They are the conditions required for the birth of your greater self. When God is about to give you something big, He often allows pressure to build. This pressure may appear as financial struggles, relational challenges, or inner doubts. You may feel as if life is pressing in from every side, but instead of cursing the pressure, recognize it as evidence that something powerful is near. Pressure only exists when there is something within you trying to expand beyond its current form. If nothing greater were on its way, there would be no need for the stretching. Delay itself is an illusion. In truth, what seems delayed is simply aligning at the right time and in the right way. Imagine a great gift being wrapped, prepared, and delivered. From your perspective, it may feel late, but from the higher perspective, it is perfect timing. If it arrived too soon, you would not be ready to hold it. If it came too easily, you would not have the strength to keep it. The resistance is not against you. It is for you. It forges patience, deepens faith, and sharpens vision. Even in nature, the greatest treasures are formed under pressure. Diamonds are created only through immense heat and compression. Pearls are formed when an oyster endures irritation until it transforms it into beauty. In the same way, the heaviness you feel is crafting strength, wisdom, and resilience within you. Without the pressure, the breakthrough would be shallow. With it, the breakthrough becomes permanent. The key is not to fight the pressure, but to lean into it with trust. Know that every no you face is guiding you to the greater yes. Every delay is a pause for alignment. Every closed door is a redirection to a better one. When the breakthrough finally arrives, and it always does, you will see that the pressure was not punishment, it was the pathway. And you will stand stronger, clearer, and more alive because of it. There comes a time on the journey toward your greater blessing when life begins to whisper. These whispers are not random, they are signs, signals that you are aligning with the reality you have been calling into being. They arrive as synchronicities, vivid dreams, sudden insights, and subtle nudges that seem to point in the same direction. To the ordinary eye, they may look like coincidences, but to the awakened heart, they are confirmations that what you seek is already seeking you. Synchronicities often appear when you are closest to your breakthrough. You think of someone and they call. You imagine a place and suddenly opportunities to visit it open up. Numbers repeat themselves. Symbols follow you. Words or phrases echo across different conversations. It may feel uncanny, almost as if the world itself is speaking directly to you. That is because it is. The outer world is mirroring your inner state. showing you that your desire is not just a wish, but a reality already in motion. Dreams also carry powerful messages during this season. At night, when the conscious mind rests, the deeper self communicates in symbols and scenarios. You may dream of stepping into new houses, of flying, of being clothed in garments you have never worn before. These are not meaningless images, they are reflections of your inner transformation. They are glimpses of the life your soul is already inhabiting before your body has caught up. When you awaken from such dreams, do not dismiss them. Write them down, honor them, and recognize them as signposts that you are walking the right path. Then there are the sudden insights, the flashes of understanding that arrive without warning. One moment you are uncertain, and the next you know exactly what to do. A solution appears, an idea takes root, a new perspective opens. These insights are not accidents. They are the voice of the divine within you, guiding your steps with precision. What once seemed complicated becomes simple. What once felt impossible now feels inevitable. These insights are evidence that you are no longer struggling alone. You are aligned with a wisdom far greater than your own. The beauty of these signs is that they carry with them a sense of reassurance. They remind you that you are not wandering aimlessly, nor are you waiting in vain. Every synchronicity, every dream, every insight is a gentle tap on the shoulder, saying, "Keep going. You are closer than you think." The signs do not create the blessing, they reveal it. They show you that the unseen has already taken form and is on its way into the visible. So when these signals appear, do not ignore them. Welcome them with gratitude, for they are proof that heaven and earth are working together on your behalf. Pay attention, trust the patterns, and let them encourage you to persist. For when the signs of alignment become too frequent to dismiss, know this: the blessing is no longer just coming, it is already here, unfolding before your eyes. There is a sacred moment on the journey of creation when striving ceases. It does not come with fireworks or a loud announcement. Rather, it arrives as a quiet knowing within the heart. This is the feeling of completion. Long before the blessing touches your hands, your spirit already celebrates it as finished. It is as if a gentle voice within whispers, "It is done." You no longer chase, you no longer beg, and you no longer worry. You rest in the awareness that what you asked for is already yours. This inner completion is not imagination playing tricks. It is the truth of how creation works. Everything begins in the unseen, in the invisible realm of thought and feeling. The outer world is simply the shadow of the inner. When your heart reaches that place of peace, where the desire feels fulfilled, the outer must eventually reflect it. The quiet knowing is not separate from the blessing. It is the first stage of its manifestation. Many misunderstand this stage because it feels so subtle. There is no urgency, no impatience. The restlessness that once kept you awake at night has vanished. Instead, there is calm. You may still go about your daily routine, but something within you has shifted. You walk with a new confidence, speak with quiet authority, and carry an energy of certainty. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is the heart's recognition that the work is already complete. Think of an artist who has just finished painting. Before the world sees it, before it hangs on a wall, the artist already knows it is done. The satisfaction, the fulfillment has already settled in the heart. The unveiling is only a matter of time. In the same way, when you reach the inner feeling of completion, you are no longer waiting with anxiety. You are simply allowing the unveiling of what already exists. This inner state is powerful because it silences doubt. When the heart knows, the mind can no longer argue. Circumstances may still look unchanged, but you are unmoved. You no longer seek signs to prove it to you. Instead, you see signs because you already know it is true. Faith has matured into certainty, and certainty requires no effort. It simply is. Often, this feeling arrives after a season of pressure and surrender. You wrestle, you question, you stretch, and then suddenly, without force, you rest. It is like exhaling after holding your breath too long. Peace floods the soul, and you know you do not need to chase what is already yours. You begin to live as though the desire has been fulfilled, and in that living you draw it swiftly into form. So cherish this inner completion. It is the sweetest evidence that your manifestation is near. The world will soon catch up to what your heart already knows, and when it does, you will smile, not in surprise, but in recognition. For you understood long before it appeared. It was done the moment you felt it so. The moments just before the blessing often feel like the hardest to endure. Everything within you longs for evidence, yet the outer world remains stubbornly silent. Doubts rise, fears whisper, and life seems to test the very faith you have been holding on to. This is not coincidence. It is the test of faith. Before the greater blessing arrives, you will be tempted to give up, to walk away, to believe it was all in vain. But those who endure this final trial discover that it is nothing more than the last threshold before the door opens. Faith is not proven in times of ease. It is revealed in moments of silence, when nothing in the outer world seems to agree with what you know inwardly to be true. The delay is not punishment. It is the refining of your conviction. Just as gold is purified by fire, your faith is strengthened by resistance. If the desire appeared the moment you asked, there would be no depth of trust, no growth of character, no expansion of soul. The test of faith is the divine way of ensuring that you are not only ready to receive, but ready to sustain what is given. In this stage, circumstances often appear contrary. Opportunities may close, relationships may shift, and unexpected obstacles may arise. Everything seems to shout, "It will not happen." Yet this contradiction is the very sign that you are near. The old reality is making one last attempt to pull you back into doubt. If you surrender to the appearance, you return to the old self. But if you hold firm, if you refuse to give in to the illusion, you pass through the test and step into the fulfillment. This test is not meant to break you, but to reveal you. It shows you the strength already inside you, the unwavering conviction that does not bend with appearances. You learn to walk by inner vision rather than outer sight. And as you persist, the unseen begins to solidify into form. The blessing you once could only imagine now takes tangible shape before your eyes. Think of a runner approaching the finish line. The final stretch is often the most exhausting. Muscles ache, lungs burn, and everything cries out to stop. Yet the runner pushes through, knowing that the reward is not far. The same is true of you. The pressure you feel, the doubts that press in, are simply signs that you are at the threshold. If you can endure this last stretch, you will see the promise fulfilled. So when life tempts you to give up, when the silence feels unbearable, when the evidence seems against you, remember this truth. You are closest to the blessing when the test feels strongest. Stand firm. Refuse to waver. The door is not locked. It is waiting for your persistence to push it open. And once you step through, you will look back and realize that the test was not a barrier, it was the bridge that carried you into the life you were meant to live. Everything you have experienced, the inner shaking, the crumbling of the old self, the pressure before breakthrough, the signs of alignment, the quiet feeling of completion, and even the final test of faith are not random events. They are the sacred stages of transformation. They are the proof that God is preparing you for something greater than you have ever imagined. What looks like struggle is actually shaping, what feels like delay is divine timing, and what seems like the end is only the beginning of a new chapter. So when these moments arrive, do not despair. Embrace them. Recognize them as confirmation that your blessing is near. The greater the shaking, the greater the gift. The deeper the test, the brighter the reward. Stand firm, trust the unseen, and live as though it is already done. For in truth, it already is. Thank you for giving me your time and your heart. May these words remind you of the power within you and the promise before you. Stay strong, stay faithful, and watch how your life transforms. Thank you, my friend. You may not see it right now, but everything is working together for your good. The pieces that look scattered, the doors that closed, the moments that broke you, they are all being woven by divine hands into something breathtaking. You are not forgotten. You are being positioned. When God works, He often works in silence. He doesn't announce the process, He perfects it. What you call confusion is divine construction. What you call delay is spiritual alignment. God is rearranging the unseen realm to make everything fit your highest good. There are moments in life when the path feels uncertain, when what you prayed for seems far away. That's when the temptation comes to doubt, to question, to worry. But trust this truth. Faith begins where understanding ends. Faith doesn't need to see evidence, it creates it. When you believe that everything is already working out, life starts reflecting that belief. Circumstances bend to your inner conviction. The universe mirrors your inner trust. You begin to walk not as one hoping for favor, but as one carrying it. So stop asking when and start saying thank you. Every challenge, every closed door, every heartbreak, it's not rejection, it's redirection. The divine knows the path that will bring you the greatest fulfillment. What feels like delay is really preparation for divine timing. You may think God has forgotten your prayer, but He's actually protecting it. He's shaping you into the person who can hold the blessing that's coming. The seed doesn't question the soil, it simply trusts the process. It knows that what's buried today will bloom tomorrow. So today, release your worry. Let go of the how and the when. Your only job is to believe, to dwell in the feeling that it's already done. Close your eyes and feel the reality of your answered prayer. Feel the peace of knowing that God has gone before you. Walk as if your miracle is already manifesting, because it is. You are not waiting on the blessing. The blessing is waiting on your trust. Every moment, every change, every unseen shift is working for your favor. So rest in this truth. You are guided, you are favored, and nothing is against you. The process may not look perfect, but it is divine. And one day soon you'll look back and realize every delay, every detour, every disappointment was God's perfect choreography bringing you into destiny. Trust the process. It's all working in your favor. It always has been. Everything that happens in your life, both the good and the challenging, is part of a greater orchestration, a divine rearrangement that is silently unfolding in your favor. It's easy to trust God when things make sense, when doors open smoothly, when opportunities align perfectly. But the real test of faith begins when the pieces seem scattered, when progress feels distant, and when your prayers appear unanswered. Yet even then, behind the confusion, God is at work, arranging every detail with precision and purpose. What looks like a setback is often a setup for something greater. The delays you face are not denials, they are divine strategies designed to position you exactly where you need to be. Every closed door, every unexpected turn, every disappointment has meaning. There are moments when it feels like nothing is happening, but that silence is not absence, it's preparation. God is shifting circumstances, moving people, and aligning opportunities that you cannot yet see. The unseen rearrangement is happening in the invisible realm long before it appears in the visible one. Your responsibility is not to figure out how it's happening, but to trust that it is. Faith means believing that while you cannot see the full picture, the artist never stops painting. Think of it like a master weaver at work. From the front, the tapestry looks beautiful and complete, but from the back, all you see are tangled threads, knots, and chaos. Your life may look like the back of that tapestry right now. You see confusion, frustration, and delays, but God sees the front side. He sees the design, the masterpiece, the finished work. Every wrong turn is being woven into something that will ultimately make sense. Nothing is wasted, not a single tear, not a single moment. There's divine intelligence behind every event, no matter how random it appears. That job you lost, it's making room for one that fits your purpose. That relationship that ended, it's clearing space for one that will honor your worth. That opportunity that fell through, it wasn't rejection, it was redirection. God's rearrangement always involves movement, and movement often feels uncomfortable. But remember, discomfort is the evidence that transformation is taking place. When you learn to rest in that truth, peace replaces panic. You stop fighting against what's leaving and start welcoming what's coming. You begin to see that every delay has meaning and every detour carries direction. The unseen rearrangement of your life isn't about punishment, it's about preparation. God is making sure that when the blessing arrives, you are ready to receive it fully, without fear, doubt, or limitation. So, even when nothing seems to make sense, stay anchored in faith. Something divine is happening behind the scenes. The doors that close are leading you toward the ones that matter. The pain you feel today is creating the strength you'll need tomorrow. What looks like chaos is actually choreography. God is not late, He's strategic. And when the rearrangement is complete, you'll see how every piece was always working in your favor. Life is not responding to what you want, it's responding to what you believe. Every experience, every encounter, every outcome is a reflection of the inner state you carry. The outer world is like a mirror. It faithfully reflects the images of your inner convictions, thoughts, and emotions. When you trust that God is working for you, your vibration changes, your energy shifts, and the circumstances around you begin to realign with that faith. What you hold within, your faith, your peace, your certainty, becomes the blueprint that shapes the world you see outside of you. This faith, you cannot walk in doubt internally and expect clarity externally. You cannot carry fear and attract peace. You cannot live in limitation and expect expansion. The law of life is simple but profound. As within, so without. What's going on inside you is constantly being echoed in the outer world. When your heart is filled with trust, gratitude, and assurance, your environment starts to mirror that frequency. Doors open, people respond differently, opportunities find you effortlessly, not because you're forcing them, but because your inner faith has become magnetic. When you believe that God is working behind the scenes, you stop striving and start aligning. You no longer chase outcomes, you attract them through your certainty. You begin to see life not as a series of random events, but as a spiritual reflection of your consciousness. Every challenge that arises becomes an opportunity to practice faith. Every delay becomes a lesson in surrender. Every moment becomes a chance to choose trust over fear. Imagine holding a lens covered in dust and trying to look through it. Everything outside looks unclear, not because the world is unclear, but because your lens is. Your inner state is that lens. When it's clouded by worry, doubt, or resentment, the world appears harsh and uncertain. But when your inner lens is clear, with faith, peace, and gratitude, the same world begins to look radiant and full of possibility. The outer world doesn't change first, you do. And once you do, the world must follow suit. That's why inner work is spiritual work. Prayer, meditation, gratitude, and faith aren't just rituals. They are acts of realignment. They tune your inner frequency to the divine rhythm of favor and grace. The more you dwell in the feeling that God is for you, the more life bends to confirm it. Circumstances shift, people appear, solutions unfold, all reflecting the conviction that already lives inside you. If your outer world feels chaotic, don't try to fix the mirror, clean the reflection, adjust your inner state. Affirm peace even when you don't see it. Give thanks even when nothing looks right. Hold the inner picture of your desired outcome and let your heart rest in the assurance that it is already done. When your inner belief aligns with divine truth, the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself accordingly. So, choose faith over fear, gratitude over worry, and certainty over doubt. Trust that God is always working in your favor, and your world will begin to reflect that trust. The moment you change within, everything outside of you begins to shift. Faith is not the absence of reason, it is the presence of divine vision. It is the bridge that connects where you are to where you are destined to be. Faith stands in the gap between the unseen promise and its visible manifestation. It doesn't demand proof, it creates it. Faith is the language of the unseen, the vibration that communicates directly with the divine. When you walk by faith, you are not walking in darkness. You are walking in higher sight, seeing through the eyes of spirit rather than the limitations of the senses. The senses will always tell you what is, but faith tells you what is becoming. Your circumstances may whisper lack, but faith declares abundance. The world may show delay, but faith affirms divine timing. The doctor's report may read impossible, but faith answers back, with God, all things are possible. Faith doesn't ignore reality, it transcends it. It recognizes that the visible world is only a shadow of a deeper truth, one that is still forming beneath the surface of what you can see. When you believe, truly believe, you begin to align with the creative power that governs all things. Faith is your agreement with the unseen reality that already exists in the mind of God. Every answered prayer, every manifestation, every miracle first existed in that invisible realm before it ever appeared in the physical world. Faith is the bridge that allows that unseen blessing to cross over into your lived experience. Without faith, the bridge remains incomplete. With faith, the bridge becomes solid beneath your feet. Walking by faith means you no longer need to see the entire path. You trust the one who designed it. You take each step in confidence, knowing that even if you can't see the next stone, it will appear beneath your foot at the right moment. Faith is the decision to move forward even when the evidence is not yet visible, because you trust that God is arranging everything on your behalf. Faith is not passive, it's an active stance of certainty. It is holding the feeling of the answered prayer before it arrives. It is giving thanks for the victory before the battle is over. It is standing firm in peace while everything around you seems unstable. The world calls it delusion, heaven calls it alignment. Faith transforms your energy, your perception, and your outcomes. It magnetizes blessings because it operates in harmony with divine order. When you live by faith, you live in constant cooperation with the unseen hand that moves mountains, parts seas, and opens doors that logic says should remain closed. You no longer strive to make things happen. You allow them to unfold. Faith turns waiting into preparation and uncertainty into expectation. So even when life feels uncertain, keep walking. Even when you can't see the end, keep believing. Your faith is building the bridge under your steps. What begins in the invisible must one day manifest in the visible. Trust the unseen process, because faith has already gone ahead of you and made the way clear. Delays are one of the greatest tests of faith. They stretch you, refine you, and reveal what you truly believe about God's timing. It's easy to trust when everything flows smoothly, but when you're in the in-between, the place where nothing seems to be moving, you begin to question whether the promise will ever come to pass. Yet what feels like delay is not a denial, it is divine preparation. God often conceals his blessings in seasons of waiting, because the waiting is where the real transformation happens. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up the next day to see if it's growing. You trust the process. You know that beneath the surface something powerful is taking place, even if your eyes cannot see it. The same is true in your spiritual life. When God places a promise in your heart, it takes time to grow. The soil of your soul must be cultivated, your faith must be strengthened, and your character must be shaped to carry your praying for. A delay is never wasted time. It's preparation for divine fulfillment. In the waiting, God works on the unseen areas of your life. He refines your patience, teaches you surrender, and strengthens your trust. If you received everything you asked for instantly, your faith would never mature. The waiting builds depth, it develops spiritual muscle. The delay becomes the classroom where you learn how to depend on God completely. You stop chasing signs and start resting in His Word. You begin to realize that the process is as sacred as the promise itself. What you think is inactivity is actually divine activity. Behind the scenes, God is aligning circumstances, preparing people, and creating the right environment for your blessing to flourish. If it came too soon, it could destroy you. But in the right season, it will sustain you. There's a divine reason you haven't seen movement yet. Something within you or around you is still being aligned. Sometimes God holds back what you desire because He knows it would be smaller than what He plans to give you. When it feels like nothing is happening, shift your focus from frustration to faith. Every moment of delay is building spiritual capacity. It's creating roots deep enough to hold the fruit that's coming. Just because you can't see the evidence doesn't mean it's not unfolding. The seed doesn't stop growing just because it's hidden underground. God hides your blessing to protect it until it's ready to bloom. So instead of asking, when will it happen, begin saying, thank you, God, that it's happening. Praise Him not only for the promise, but also for the preparation. The waiting is not a punishment, it's positioning. Every delay has divine intention. When the appointed time arrives, what once seemed impossible will unfold effortlessly. The door will open, the promise will appear, and you'll realize that the delay was never a detour. It was the very thing that made the destination possible. God is not withholding, He's preparing. And when He's done, it will be worth every moment of the wait. The greatest secret of manifestation is not in asking repeatedly, it's in assuming the feeling of the answered prayer. The moment you believe that what you desire is already yours, the energy of your world begins to shift. You no longer live in lack, but in fulfillment. You no longer pray from desperation, but from gratitude. When you assume the feeling of the answer, you align yourself with the vibration of completion, and creation must obey that frequency. The outer world has no choice but to mirror the conviction you hold within. Belief always precedes evidence. Everything you now see began first as an unseen conviction in someone's mind. Faith works the same way. It's the inner acceptance of the unseen as already real. When you walk around believing that your prayer is answered, you begin to speak differently, think differently, and act differently. You shift from hoping it will happen to knowing it already has. That inner certainty becomes magnetic. The universe rearranges people, events, and opportunities to reflect the energy of that belief. Most people wait for evidence to believe. They say, I'll believe it when I see it. But spiritual law operates in reverse. You see it because you believe it. Your inner state is the seed, and the outer experience is the harvest. If your inner world is filled with doubt, fear, and waiting, that's exactly what your outer world will reproduce. But when you carry the feeling that it's already done, your outer life begins to conform to that assumption. It's not pretending. It's participating with divine creation. Think of yourself as the artist of your reality. The brush is your imagination, and your belief is the color that brings life to the canvas. When you hold the image of your answered prayer and let your emotions match it, peace, gratitude, joy, you begin to live from the end. You're no longer striving to make something happen, You're aligning with what already exists in the unseen. That alignment creates movement in the visible world. This principle isn't about ignoring what's real, it's about elevating your perception to a higher truth. You can acknowledge your current circumstances while still holding the feeling of your desired outcome. You can look at the present and still say, "This too is working in my favor." When you live as if your miracle has already occurred, your actions naturally flow from that confidence. You stop worrying, you stop forcing outcomes, you start resting in assurance. Gratitude becomes your daily posture. Instead of asking, "When will it happen?" you begin saying, "Thank you," that it already has. That shift from asking to thanking is the mark of true faith. It tells the universe and God that you trust His timing, His method, and His wisdom. So close your eyes and imagine the feeling of the prayer already fulfilled. Feel the peace, the joy, the relief. Let it fill your entire being. That feeling is the bridge between your desire and its manifestation. Hold it, live in it, and soon the outer world will catch up to what you've already accepted within. Believe first and watch the evidence flow effortlessly into your life. Surrendering to the divine timeline is one of the highest forms of faith. It is the art of releasing control and trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should, even when your mind cannot understand the pace or direction. It doesn't mean giving up, it means giving over. It means resting in the awareness that God's plan for your life is far greater, wiser, and more beautiful than anything you could orchestrate on your own. Trusting the divine timeline requires humility. The humility to accept that your understanding is limited, but divine wisdom is infinite. When you truly surrender, you no longer force outcomes. You stop trying to rush what needs time to mature. You stop begging for doors to open before you're ready to walk through them. You realize that divine timing is not delay, it's precision. God's plan never runs late, it runs deep. Every event, every encounter, every pause is perfectly synchronized to prepare both you and the path ahead. The waiting is not wasted. It's weaving something eternal. We often believe we must make everything happen through effort and striving, but real trust begins when you learn to rest while you wait. Surrender is not idleness, it's inner alignment. It's choosing peace over panic, faith over fear, gratitude over anxiety. It's saying, "God, I don't know how or when, but I know you do." In that space of surrender, the burden lifts. You stop trying to control the uncontrollable and begin to cooperate with divine flow. Every season of your life has a sacred rhythm. There's a time to sow, a time to grow, and a time to harvest. Trying to force a harvest before its season only brings frustration. But when you trust the divine timeline, you move in harmony with life itself. You understand that what's meant for you will never miss you, and what's not meant for you will never stay. The things that seem delayed are only being perfected. The people who left were part of the pruning process. The opportunities that didn't come through were protection disguised as disappointment. This is why surrender is the bridge between chaos and peace. It transforms waiting into worship. When you stop resisting the timing of your blessings, you open the door for divine acceleration. Ironically, the moment you stop trying to control the outcome is often the moment things begin to flow, because surrender aligns your energy with divine order, where miracles naturally unfold. So breathe deeply and let go of the timelines you created in your mind. Let go of the pressure to make things happen on your schedule. Rest in the knowing that the universe, under God's command, is not working against you, it's working for you. The invisible forces are already arranging what belongs to you. Your only role is to keep your faith alive, to stay grateful in the waiting, and to trust that when the time is right, everything will unfold effortlessly. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are right on schedule, according to the divine timeline that never fails. Every moment of your life, every delay, every challenge, every breakthrough is part of a divine design working perfectly in your favor. You may not see all the pieces right now, but God does. He's arranging, aligning, and preparing everything you need to step into your destiny. The unseen rearrangement, your inner faith, your willingness to wait, your surrender, these are not random spiritual concepts. They are the tools that bridge the invisible and the visible. When you learn to trust the process, to hold the feeling of the answered prayer, and to release your need to control timing, life begins to unfold with divine ease. What once felt like chaos becomes clarity. What once felt like delay becomes direction. Every event begins to reveal its purpose. So walk forward with peace in your heart. Know that the hand of God is upon your life, shaping every experience into favor. Believe that even now, unseen forces are moving in your direction. Keep your faith steady, your spirit calm, and your words filled with gratitude. You are not waiting for things to work out. They already are. Trust the process, because the process itself is proof that you are on your divine path. Thank you for watching, and remember, everything is working in your favor. Stay in faith, stay grateful, and keep trusting the divine timing of your life.